newspaper, its front page reads, surprise package for Bill's appointees. And you can see the faces of different ministers here on the front page of the exclusive newspaper. Mercury donates 100 million loans. Grab a copy of the exclusive newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Premier News newspaper, its front page reads, Sierra Leone's sinking island. UK welcomes Sierra Leone's determination to make progress on human rights. And President Bill signs abolition of death penalty. Grab a copy of the Premier News newspaper, read more on the stories inside. From the Premier News, we take the Standard Times newspaper, its front page reads, big fraud probe awaits ACC. And you can see the face of the commissioner of the ACC, Francis Ben Kefala. For the People newspaper, its front page reads, Kwena-Dogo elections, SLPP puts democracy under very dark cloud. Editorial children crying for help. Grab a copy of the For the People newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Awoko newspaper, its front page reads, new issues 48 hours ultimatum to police to provide observers phone. To massage or not to massage? Participants divided over strategy for gender bill. This government will not use the data from the midterm census anymore. Reverend James Laha is being quoted here. Becker pupils out of school due to COVID-19 ramifications. All this could be found on the Awoko newspaper. Grab a copy and read more on the stories inside. The Satellite newspaper, its front page reads, as abolition of death penalty law signed, President Bill hailed. And of course, Global Labs set to offer free medical service in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone Commercial Bank celebrates Customer Service Week. All this could be found on the Satellite newspaper. Grab a copy and read more on the stories inside. The Night Watch newspaper, its front page reads, corruption syndicate at Lands Ministry. SLPP's cheap politics. Mercury splashes 100 million as our father and not responsible. Our father is not responsible. Grab a copy of the Night Watch newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Trumpet newspaper, its front page reads, with the increase in demand for FHAP rice, Pastor Mambu boosted with combined harvester. President Bill extol partners in the educational sector. Legal Aid Board secures discharge for 3 clients in court. Bill signs the abolition of death penalty. Grab a copy of the Trumpet newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Sierra Update newspaper, its front page reads, Sierra Leone Road Safety Experts concludes 10th Annual General Assembly. I was not arrested and released on stiff bail conditions by the ACC. Dr. Samura Kamara is being quoted here. Grab a copy of the Sierra Update newspaper and read more on the stories inside. The Global Times newspaper, its front page reads, MCC engages EWRC. President Bill, a man of his word. Youth Ministry boosts 187 youth enterprises. NID ends public-private dialogue. SLPP writes NEC chairman. Grab a copy of the Global Times newspaper. Read more on the stories inside. The Salon Compass newspaper, its front page reads, the agony of Kamarimba Mansouri. Aftermath of the AFPA Leadership Award, worldwide commendations for former President Nkrumah. For exposing attempted ritual murder, Salon Compass Times Sierra Leone faces life threat. All this could be found on the Salon Compass newspaper. Grab a copy and read more on the stories inside. The New Vision newspaper, its front page reads, rice suppliers plan to dupe government. Death penalty removed. Big boost for fisheries. Grab a copy of the New Vision newspaper. Read more on the stories inside. Voice of Salon newspaper, its front page reads, Kamarimba's prolonged detention taking different twist as ADP strongman shifted blame on IGP. Land Complaints Committee presents reports to President Bill. President Bill expresses commitment to rehabilitate Mende Central Mosque. All this could be found on the Voice of Salone newspaper. Grab a copy and read more on the stories inside. The From newspaper, its front page reads, WAEC plot exposed. Former President Nkrumah received worldwide commendations on his AFBA Leadership Award. Africell Sierra Leone, Satina Samsung signed MOU. Grab a copy of the Forum newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Calabash newspaper, its front page reads, NEC in the spotlight over Koinadogu by-elections. Africell Samsung signed MOU that offers free data to subscribers. During first anniversary celebration, Mercury donates 100 million loans to Dr. Kadi A. Sise Girls School. President Bill symbolically appends his signature marking end of death penalty. Lands Minister submits Land Complaints Committee to President Bill. And NP Salone poised to take customer care to an higher level. Grab a copy of the Calabash newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Independent Observer newspaper, its front page reads, Meta Minerals, who are we and what we do? Bill sacks prisons hangman. Grab a copy of the Independent Observer newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Public Review newspaper, its front page reads, at UN General Summit, PM Boris Johnson warns of imminent destruction. Judiciary ready to act on abolition of death penalty. Mercury craves First Girls Secondary School Foundation. And 2 jail for manslaughter. Grab a copy of the Public Review newspaper, read more on the stories inside. The Peak newspaper, its front page reads, UK removes SL of red list today. President Bill signs the abolition of death penalty. The APC needs a serious reflection. All this could be found on the Peak newspaper. Read more on the stories inside. News 24, its front page reads, why President Bill will win 2023 election. Part 2, the Fatima Bill factor. Abolishes death penalty, new direction upholds right to life. Dr. Samuel Jibao explains reforms at NRA. All this could be found on the News 24 newspaper. Read more on the stories by grabbing a copy. The last paper for this morning is the Sierra Express Media newspaper, and its front page reads, Chieftaincy election looms in Pujeon. No smooth sail for the Kaikai dynamics. And then promotions at correctional service and shocks waves. NEC mafia cut pants down. Grab a copy of the Sierra Express newspaper, read more on the stories inside. Gentlemen, these are the front pages of our different newspapers. And I'd like to welcome you again to the program. And of course, viewers, you can be part of the show this morning by sending us your views, comments, and contributions via our Facebook page, the Africa Young Voices Media Empire. We start by taking the Africa Young Voices Media Empire newspaper, and I will take the banner headline which says, President Bill finally signs death penalty abolition. I will read the first 2 paragraphs and then we will have it discussed. President Julius Maada Bio has completed the symbolic signing into law of the abolition of the death penalty and consoled those who have lived in the pain of losing a loved one to a judicial execution. But the real heroes of today are citizens who, for 60 years, have cowered in real fear for their inalienable and inviolable right to life. Today, we have again made history as a nation. We have today exalted heroes of a cruel past, he said. The president recalled when he first proposed abolishing the death penalty in its entirety for all capital crimes. There were widespread skepticisms, criticisms, and outright hostility. He added that while some people had cautioned him, warning that it was unwise to let go of the ultimate cudgel that had kept political opponents in line, Others wondered whether that was really what he wanted to do. Those who did not wish to be seen as hard dissenters made counter proposals that we could keep the death penalty for some time. My position was a hard and firm no to the death penalty in all its forms and all crimes. The state has absolutely no obligation to undertake judicial killings of its own citizens in order to instill law and order or political gain. A lengthy story here, Melvin, but the nucleus of it is that this old law has finally been expunged by, from our law books by President Julius Maada Bio. What does it mean to have the death penalty taken away from our law books?
Well, it's too early to weigh in on the possible benefits that it represents. Looking at the fact that the arguments for and against, even before the parliamentary ratification or enactment, was not substantiated based on facts or crime statistics, but rather than what I would perceive as international best practice or pressure coming in from within and outside. But it was a political promise by the president. It's contained in the governing SLVP manifesto, so that has been materialized. But what is not materialized with that enactment is the fact that on one hand, for deaths, for convictions upon murder, manslaughter, treason, as per the amendments made, the court cannot tender what we call a death anymore, or life imprisonment. Yeah. And that's what suffices. That's the question so many people ask, what should replace it? But however, on the critical note, even with the life imprisonment, it's not certain that one that is found wanting or convicted for killing another person will spend his or her whole life at the correctional service. The simple fact that if you look at one of the sections in the Constitution, I think it's section number 62, that talks about the prerogative of mercy being given by the president. That is section 63. Even when we don't, the law is saying it's life imprisonment, that life imprisonment is not certain because any president can grant a prerogative of mercy. So in the process of that enactment, that was not looked into. Again, another aspect of the law which I still consider unfinished business, and some other legal minds have been expressing similar sentiments, is the fact that, yes, it's saying death penalty is abolished on one hand, but the constitutional basis, which is the Constitution of Sierra Leone itself, makes provision for deaths and killings. Somebody will say this sounds bizarre. If you look at section 16, subsection number 2 of the Constitution, it gives exceptions or exemptions where the states cannot guarantee the rights, the protection to the right to life. And thus, the critical argument begs, why having the abolition of death penalty but not making the correction to reflect constitutional-wise?
So, Melvin, if I could get you well, are you trying to say that this abolition is a kind of cosmetic thing, but in actual sense it has not been done?
I will be guided by in the way I will use my adjectives, but definitely I will tell you it's just like giving something on one hand and taking it another hand. So there are two sides to this abolition thing.
So in your view, you are saying even though it has been expunged, but yet still the states can use the Constitution again to kill people if they want to, citizens if they want to.
Because the Constitution gives powers to the states to take that right to life.
And in his submission, the President clearly states that, stated that indeed no state, Sierra Leone, hasn't got the right to actually take the life of its own citizens that it is meant to protect. And the reason why he has actually appended his signature into the abolition of the death penalty.
That was not a comprehensive overview coming from the President at all, because it's under his leadership that we saw what happened at the correctional service. And up till now, we are yet to get an independent report.
But this happened before the abolition of this death penalty?
Even at that, in fact, if you are saying that should not have happened in the first place, from the right to life perspective.
Okay, let me leave you and come in to Sano. Sano, your take on the abolition of the death penalty by the Bio-led administration.
Well, I think when you look into his manifesto promise, it was one of his manifesto promises. And I think acting or doing the talk You understand? But signing such thing, for me, is a very good move. And the processes, the entire process cannot end the day he signed the document, right? It's a process, right? And we have to follow through the process. Okay. But for one instance, I am so happy, and people should be so happy, except we don't want to give him that praise. But if we are really sincere to ourselves, if he decided, nobody forces him, he made a promise, and he is sticking each of his promises he has made. Nobody forces him. We've got several other presidents, they did not go around that. And people are in prison today. People have died because they were falsely accused. Not only here in America, everywhere, because they are falsely accused. I remember my uncle, the former vice president during APC, Mr. Mina, the lawyer Mina, was killed, right? And later, it was proven that he was not even part of that. We've gotten other people, like the Sorifonas and co. Those were killed, you understand? Let's come to the Pakaba era, when he came back to power, right? Kula Samba and others were killed. Imagine there was no death penalty. Imagine we have a situation like that. Probably during the process, when there is a change of government, those people would have been saved. And killing those people is killing the human capital resources of our country. You may not like President Bio, right? You may not accept what he is. You may not like his party. He may not be a friend of you. But what he has, the strive he's taking, you understand, is very good. Last week, I was telling a journalist, I said, I saw the National Presidential Teachers Award being given. It is a manifesto promise, but I've not seen that in the media, right? So at least he's sticking them. My uncle, Lawyer Mina, should have been alive, right? If he was not killed. We have other serious people, competent people that were killed. We have traders that were killed. And this is not just limited to now government, you understand? To the SLPP government. It also happens in the APC government. These two parties have been leading us, and they have killed people, you understand, our loved one. So if this man, as a president, who people demonized, who people thought was a bad guy, and he came and he said, look, I don't want to kill anybody. I want this. And he appended his signature and took it out. Believe you me, he may not be in your good books. He may not be your friend. But I think that is kudos to him. That is kudos to the government. And that is kudos to
critics might say that probably the president did this as a result of international pressure, just because he wants to be recognized internationally.
No, it was not international pressure that made his manifesto, mind you.
Okay.
I want to say this, that I can categorically say it. It was not international pressure. And it is not something. We saw the British High Commissioner, we saw other dignitaries praising him. We cannot be wise. You know, those people, we just sit down and talk. Those people, they have their satellite. Those people, they do due diligence. They probe into things. It was not that. It is just that I think he thinks his time is coming to an end, and he has certain things that he has promised. So he's trying to ensure that he ticks it. Because at the end of the day, from next year, some of us will be looking at all those things he promised. Everything.
So now, before I come to Melvin again on this issue, don't you think that the abolition of the death penalty is definitely tantamount to us having more willful killings in country? Somebody will say, the killer run you jail, quote unquote.
And I don't think so. So my next question is that if this is happening, my next question is that if this is
it's very important that President abolishes the death penalty, irrespective of the fact that this might be a recipe for more killing in country.
I earlier on opened my submission by saying the arguments for and against the abolition, there are schools of thought, abolitionists and the retentionists. Both sides of this argument, in my opinion, did not advance enough empirical evidence. For example, your question is saying, is this decision predicated on crime statistics, as we'll see in advanced democracies? Because let's not be oblivious of the fact, even in the United States of America, some states are having death penalty in their law book. So ask yourself, them being the almighty Democrats, why are they having this law? So I don't think we did due diligence, and no wonder we are seeing a lot of mismatches and lacuna with what Parliament. In fact, we should be also commenting on why is it now that the President is signing this into law? Because Parliament, we know, even before they went on a recess, which they are fastly approaching some 3 months or 2.5 months, they've enacted this law. So why is he only signing it now into law? Could that not be another constitutional argument in terms of the timeline stated in the Constitution as to when should the President accept or not accept assenting to bills? So for me, these are all the critical issues I will be looking at. But rather than that, the facts are not enough to say whether we are not having the death penalty, it will increase crime or not. It was never advanced in the first place, and I think that was supposed to have been the case before moving forward with this thing.
All right, many thanks to you, Melvin. Viewers, keep sending your views, comments, and contributions via our Facebook page, the Africa Young Voices Media Empire. The program is Front Page. I have in the studio Melvin Tijan Mansare, a colleague journalist, and of course Joseph Sano, a civil society activist. They are here to help me discuss the front pages of the different bulletins here. I'm your host this morning, Swale Ovandi. We take our next story from the Calabash newspaper, and the banner headline says, NEC in the spotlight over Koinadougou by-elections. And the story is being done by Fode Moriba Conte. In a press statement that was issued by the All People's Congress Party on the 8th October 2021 and signed by Ambassador Alhaji Usman Fode Yansanen, National Secretary General of the party, says it wishes to draw the attention of all and yet another instance of institutionalized electoral malpractice involving staff of the National Electoral Commission, NEC, and the manner in which that institution has conducted the by-elections for the Koinadougou District Chairman and Ward 155 held on the 2nd October 2021. The APC executive continued that they note with great concern that during those elections, their polling agents caught staff of NEC directly tampering with results and altering them in favor of the governing Sierra Leone People's Party. It was further highlighted that during the tally process for the councillor for Ward 155, the ICT staff tampered with the results for Station 1 at the MCA Primary School in the Fambakoro in favor of the SLPP. Also in the press statement continued correct scores which were 049 for SLPP and 083 for APC for the station signed by NEC officials, polling agents, and other observers were fraudulently entered by a NEC staff as 149 for SLPP, leaving the APC votes the same. The APC categorically maintained that such was what criminally inflated the SLPP candidate's votes by an extra 100 and fraudulently affected the final outcome of the by-elections for the councillorship for Ward 155. It was stated that the reconciliation results form clearly confirmed the facts. Lengthy story here, gentlemen, but Sano, I'll start with you this time round. There's so much being said about the Koinadougou election. When the election ended on the 2nd, both parties that actually contested claimed the victory. You know, the SLPP was saying we are sure of victory. The APC was also saying we are sure of victory. But at the end of the day, we saw it going 1-1. APC winning the chairmanship and SLPP winning the councillorship as announced by NEC. Now there is a serious rejection here by the APC that indeed the councillorship election, in fact, was won by them, but because of the fraudulent behavior of some NEC staff, they inflated the votes of the SLPP.
I think it is but very important for us to note that the integrity of our state institutions must be maintained, no matter what. And I think it is important for Sierra Leoneans to note that when you are placed in a position of trust, there are certain times you have to be very professional. You put aside party politics. I have not seen any country that party politics have developed. We cannot put party politics above national interest. And I think people should know that the security of our democracy and our nation lies on how people at NEC and the political parties dispense themselves. Now, the elections, I was not part of it. I did not partake in any elections. I was not part of it, but we've seen it flying over social media. We've read it on newspaper. We've listened to it on news. We've watched different news media houses, and we've seen both parties pointing accusing finger at each other. Having said this, I want us to note that we have been far, far way in front in Africa in terms of democracy. And I want us to note that when we are doing these things, people that are NEC officers, that are election observers, they should be very, very careful of what they do. Because what they do will jeopardize the credibility and security of our democracy. So now, SLPP is alleging that they won it. APC is saying that it has been changed from 049 to 049 to 1049. Now, the problem here is I want us to note that with issues like this, if APC have written a letter...
Now, Sano, the question I'll put to you here is that NEC has already announced the results, and we've seen winners. APC took the chairmanship and SLPP the councillorship. But now, there is this doubt in this institution called NEC by the APC that they've got evidences that indeed these people inflated the votes of the SLPP. That was why they ended up winning the councillorship election in Koinadogo district. Is this actually good for our democracy? We are in credible institutions that are meant to provide the equal playing ground for every other political party, the NEC in particular I'm talking of here, you know, for an institution to start having doubts in that kind of body.
I accept people show me where we don't have doubt in the world. Because the Great America elections, there are doubts in the world, right? The Great Britain has the election, people doubt it. You understand? Hence, you have to deal with human interface, even when it is machine.
All right.
You understand? People doubt. But that will not by say we should try. In fact, democracy, our democracy is increasing. Yeah? That does not say give us the power or the audacity to just put down our NEC institution. Okay. They have been doing it.
Okay, Sano, let me hold you there and bring in Melvin. Melvin, you've been following the Koinadogo issue. APC is saying they won the councillorship election, but NEC stole it away from them.
You as such must prove it. They must, if they know they have enough evidence to corroborate before a competent court, they should file a matter before the court protesting. The laws, the national electoral laws are very clear with regards to acceptability, with regards to petitions, and so on and so forth. So if the APC know that they are having enough evidence beyond, well, even doubts, not reasonable doubts, let them take time before the court. Somebody will argue that, oh, the government is controlling the courts. We don't have any alternative. Go to the courts. It's the courts of Sierra Leone. Again, on the issue of NEC, we must be very proportional in this conversation. I had the opportunity to host new spokesman Saliu Kamara last Friday on my show, the Open AI program. And one thing that I sense that is a seeming phenomenon is the absence of data and facts. If you branded an election to be marred with acts of intimidation, thuggery, and things like that, I am asking for facts. How many polling stations were the elections conducted? How many of them were affected by violence? Bring us the facts. Similar to the case of the APC's protest, come out with your own copies of the RRF form. I mean, they have geniuses at the APC, Dr. Ija Conte. He seems to be an electoral expert in uncovering electoral discrepancies.
Yeah, yeah.
So take those things to the courts. And again, when we want to use isolated incidents to mar an institution, we must be very careful. We must be very, very careful and understand the political context. Donald Trump lost the United States of America's election. He never accepted.
Yeah.
It was only when the media forced him to provide evidence, which he never adduced, then people began to say, oh, this is just something else. So we must be, yes, if there is an incompetent staff at NEC who fails to perform his or her duty, in fact, I was of the opinion that you should have mentioned that person's name. They should not have left that for the social media to determine until after. So for me, but again, ask yourself, how many of the workers are at NEC? How many of them have been doing diligent work? Can we use just the incident of, let's say, even 5 to 10 cases to say NEC is not credible? For me, I should be guided in making such an assertion. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to have a situation where when we go to the general elections, one political party wins, and people say, no, we will not accept the results. Acceptability of elections results is key. But yes, such issues are around. Again, we must be very careful. The description they use, they said, observers report said, discrepancies. Who qualify what's an electoral discrepancy? What's the fact? Hold on. Let's understand this. If that man, well, is reportedly or was reportedly inflating figures, the question that comes to my mind, was it deliberate? Is there a pattern? Is there a sequencing? Who are these persons? Knowing the person will help us to understand the motive behind his crime. But again, for us to just use some, again, I'll be very...
I think I listened to the NEC spokesperson this morning, and exactly what you've said was part of his words.
I am not only in a brief for NEC.
No, I know that indeed, you know, they acknowledge that in fact their staff actually did that. But was it done intentionally or was it done out of mistake? Because according to him, he inflated the figure but signed. He said he will have actually not signed or probably not use his own signature.
Of course.
What appending his signature means, you know, that it might be deliberate or maybe done subconsciously.
And something to state here is NEC indeed acted spontaneously to remove the said person.
Yeah.
Or, well, we don't know if there are any other persons. So for me, we must be very careful in how we generalize this situation.
But Melvin, let's look at the broader picture. You know, this is just a by-election in Koinadugu. And we saw a lot of government ministers, you know, ex-government officials also pumping into Kabbalah as if that was a do-or-die thing. What is this sending to us?
And yet still we're not blaming them for leaving their offices for which they are paid, the monies that are
consolidated funds.
And also resources. Some of them, they utilize government vehicles. They abused offices, all in this quest. And nobody's talking about that. Just that everybody wants to focus on, oh, it's not credible. It's always going to be a question, even if APC comes tomorrow. But one thing I'll advise journalists, we must not be predicating our arguments or our stories based on what one political party says. They all want to attract what I call political sympathy or political empathy. So we must dig behind the stories that they present to us. I will tell you, I mean, had APC won both of those elections, they will not be protesting.
Exactly.
And SLPP protested, they will say, oh, they ought not to protest. So for me, the outcome of the result itself, mind you, this is a place that once considered as APC stronghold. And it's uncommon in our politics for a stronghold for a political party to lose an election in his or her stronghold. We saw that when APC defeated SLPP in bonds.
Yes, in the councilorship election as well.
Of course, Daddy Avondo.
Yeah, Avondo.
And what was the conversation then? Oh, yes, that shows that the SLPP is going out of power.
Exactly.
But now when the SLPP defeated the APC in Koinadugu, people feel it's impossible.
People feel it's impossible.
So for me, until you have the facts to tell me that the SLPP never won, or the SLPP... Well, if you are saying the SLPP never won, then what if the SLPP comes up with a protest saying they are challenging the chairperson's election?
And then,
so where are we going to be? So let's have the independence.
You do a rerun
so
of
it means
every
we
other
have
thing.
to at least trust the institutions that we have created. And at least one of the problems that I saw during that elections, both political parties, people that were not concerned with that, had no concern with those elections, went there, right? And they caused so many chaos and tension in that particular vicinity.
The thing
I tell you, we will not have the neck from any other country to come and do our work. They have been doing extremely good work, right? And as you said, where are the proofs? And if you have a proof, you have one court. Go to the court, you understand me? And please, please, don't bring down our state institution because of one of these things. It has occurred during several eras. And let me tell you, we are not angels. We are not God. We are not perfect. We want to see errors might happen, but we will probe into the errors and then work on it. And again, what I think that is very critical is that probably, I thank God I've been part of a group, you understand, that is called Consortium of Election Observers. Because when NEW brought out their reports, they brought it out in a way that it was just open, leaving the public, you understand, to decide what is happening. So I will talk to the team that I'm with now, which is a consortium of election observers, so that they can look more into data aspect. Because if you only depend on you to bring results, you understand, then we have some people, they will say, "New, that is the final." So if we have another body that they bring both results, and you'll be able to see.
But NEW is an independent body.
Yeah,
that
it's
that
independent.
very credible.
No, I agree they are credible. Nobody
years.
is saying they are not credible. But I tell you something, if you have one, when I read that report, you understand?
You want to say it is one-sided?
Can I?
Wait,
Okay,
Melvin,
yes.
Melvin, go on.
Let me just let's guide the conversation. It was not a report, it was a press statement for immediate release. So for me, I will not qualify it as a report for several reasons. It only captured observations and recommendations. But in fact, that statement, like I said, never catalogued statistics.
Thank you.
Not only statistics, but also, it did not, explain clearly what I can understand. But first, I think we can say it was like the foundation for more work to be done. That is it. And again, mind you, it was a provisional statement. The process was ongoing. So for me, I look forward to their comprehensive report on that one.
And the report should bring data. So that's why I was talking to my team. I said, okay, if we have to we'll be doing the same work, we'll be working simultaneously with them. So we have to ensure that we come from a different way. So that our data... Will that not be duplicity? No, it will not be duplicity. You know, let me tell you, if one day you have a NEW that will come and say, this don't happen, and then the data is not provided, and it leads to chaos. When you have two or more institutions doing something, people will look at it and you know, probe it. They will know. From that, they will know how to answer.
Okay, Mr. Sano.
So you are metamorphosing from education to election.
You want to go into election, but
you know the last
man that is ready to serve the nation. All right. Viewers, it's front page. We now give you the opportunity to actually hear some of the messages you've been sending in. The first message here is from Eddie Grant. He's saying, Sierra Leone is an interesting country. Both the APC and SLPP are not happy with the way NEC conducted the just concluded elections. Cherno Eddie Kagbo is saying, please, Mr. Sano, stop praising the president. Talk on the issue. Darren Pandiani is saying, Mr. Sano, stop dancing around the question. It's impossible to find independent minds to oversee any election in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is a very tribal and corrupt country. Eddie Grant again say, you're right, Melvin. They should it in court. Okay, I think they should take it to court is what he wants to say. Eddie Grant is saying, I am still in...
You're watching AYV Television.
If I'm going to London, I'll be telling you, okay, man, good now. So, you know, say, me and neighbor. How much is the treatment? Nothing. Nothing? That's me say they woke me. That's not fine at all. Me pay pound when me the get malaria. No go. This is a corruption.
What you make you vex so? Make us see the paper where they give you.
Look up.
Calm down. They not treat you for malaria no more.
Ah.
You get typhoid and other sickness. Now that make you pay. The beginning of malaria no more it gets. And the treatment for malaria now free.
If fine for make you know what they ask you for pay for. No afraid for ask.
Doctor, thank you. Make we dey go now.
Malaria test and treatment. Na free 30 day na all government hospital and clinic for all salon person. Elect you na man or woman, big person or pikin. But remember say, treatment for other sick dey like them typhoid, not of free. So, na that make you for make sure say you know what they ask you for pay for.